Hello snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host Kevin, here with another Angry Snowboarder review, and in this edition I'm going to be talking about the K2 formulas. I rode these at Breck very late season. A bunch of the other mountains have already closed and it is full spring. So early morning it's a little bit firmer, by midday it's pretty soft, and by afternoon it's pretty much just soup. And I rode them on my Rome Ravine. It definitely was helpful to have that board because of the soup, and that big nose was able to keep me up out of the soup. So yep, that's what I rode them on, with my DC tuck knees and a size 8. The adjustability on these is pretty standard across the rest of the K2 line. You have toolless adjustments for pretty much everything. Your straps run flip cams, pop them down, get it adjusted, lock it back in place. The toe strap has dual adjustability to it, so each strand can be individually adjusted, as well as just the total tightness adjustment and on that same cam. So loosen that cam up, you can adjust the top and lower strands individually and lock it back down. The Highback is on toolless little bolts. You flip the little tabs up, spin them out. To adjust the forward lean, all you have to do is loosen them, and then on the inside of the Highback, you just get those sliders adjusted so the Highback engages the heel cup a little earlier for more forward lean. For your Highback rotation, you do have to pull the bolts all the way out. It's not that hard to do, and realistically, once you get your rotation set, you don't really ever have to touch it again. The toe strap fits really well with the ability to dual adjust each strand individually, and it's awesome. I love toe straps that are simple, and even though this has that extra adjustability to it, it doesn't actually complicate the strap at all. It still works as your basic no frills, just 2 strands across the toe of your boot. It stays put, it doesn't move around, it clamps down well, and it just works. And I think that's easily the best thing you can do with the toe strap, is just make something that works. You don't have to do anything fancy beyond that. The ankle strap is a lot more of your classic fabric stitching and foam design. It's comfortable, it works well, it feels just normal. It's just a very normal strap. It has a little bit of give to it straightforward, it has a little bit of give to it side to side, and it just feels super classic. It's just super traditional. The ankle ratchet on this was redesigned last year in 2019, and for 2020 they're continuing on with that design because it works really well. Generally speaking, K2 ladders are a little bit of a softer material compared to some of the other stuff in the industry, and for some of you guys out there, you had a little bit more tendency to strip those ladders just because of that softer material that was less brittle, that they wouldn't crack, but a little bit softer ladders. So the new design basically eliminates the ability for the ratchet to twist on top of the ladder and pretty much keeps it positively engaged on as much of the ladder as possible the entire time you're ratcheting down. So you can get that extra couple clicks and really reach down on that strap with a less likelihood of stripping those ladders out. The toe ratchet is basically the same as it always has been, but they work really well. I've never really had an issue with K2 ratchets. I think they ride really good, they climb super smooth, they release really smooth, they glide really well, and they just work. This is your meat and potato binding, and it's a meat and potato Highback. There is nothing fancy going on, and it just works. It is your classic nylon Highback. Little bit of torsional give, just a teeny bit of give at the very top of the Highback, just so it doesn't feel intrusive on your boot, but plenty of support, good response to it, and really just super middle of the road and super classic feel. The frame on the formulas is just above a middle of the road flex. It's not a stiff binding, but it's certainly not soft. They build this to really be the team binding, and the binding that you can put on just about any board out there and you're gonna be satisfied. So that's really where the flex lands. It's not so stiff that it's gonna overpower jib boards, but it's not so soft that it's not gonna do well on a free ride or stiffer board. So if you're a really big dude and you are looking for a binding to put on a freeride board, it's probably not gonna have the stiffness to it, but it's that really solid middle of the road, one binding for your one board quiver. So if that's the style of kind of board that you're really trying to look for something to match up with as far as the flex is concerned, it's really the easiest way to look at the flex on this is it's your one binding for everything flex. These have very much that classic binding feel. This is the way bindings felt for a very long time before we started really progressing in the last 10 years or so. Not to say that that's a bad thing either. This classic feeling binding is great. It's the type of thing that you're gonna strap onto your board and you're not gonna have to think about. It just works. One of the other big things to talk about with this is it does have canting to it. It is 3 degrees, which in my opinion is really more than you actually need. I think 1.5 to 2 degrees is a lot better, but it is a softer EVA. So if you do need to push through it, you do need to push towards the outside of that canting and kind of negate that feel a little bit, you can. Generally speaking, I don't get along with canting all that well. I just don't ride a wide enough stance to really need it, but I didn't really have that issue with these, and it didn't really cause that inner knee pressure that I have gotten out of some of the stuff in the past. So definitely not something that I really seek out, but it was soft enough foam that it didn't really get in my way too much. This is K2's catch-all binding, and realistically, it's basically their team binding. This is the binding that they're just gonna throw at all their team members and go, cool, go ride formulas. Because it just works for just about everybody, for just about every style of riding, and just about any style of board that you really want to put them on. At this price point, for this value and this versatility, this is one of the better bindings out there. It just works. There's nothing fancy on this binding that's going to get in your way. There's nothing fancy on this binding that doesn't work. It's, like I said earlier, a meat and potatoes binding. It has everything you need and nothing you don't. So if you're looking for that binding that you're not going to have to think about, you can just bolt on, occasionally check your bolts, make sure stuff is tight, and it's just going to work on day 1 as well as day 100, then K2 formulas are a good bet for you. This has been my review of the K2 formula. What did you think? Has this been a binding you've been riding for the last 15 years or so, ever since it was a dual component aluminum nylon frame, all the way into this series? Let's have a conversation about it. While you're doing that, make sure you click the subscribe button and hit the bell. Make sure you get notifications when these videos are coming out. If you're new around here, check out Angry Snowboarder VIP. It's the best way to support us and keep all these projects going. Thanks for watching, and come back for my next review.